A lot of people talk about license agreements as if they were in the room when the license agreement was signed. This is why whenever we talk about MLB The Show, I usually pull Spider-Man up because they say MLB had the contract and they wanted it to be on Xbox. Now, anybody could have also made the claim and said, well, Marvel owned the license for the Spider-Man game and they wanted it to be on PC. Just because PlayStation came out and said MLB wanted this, I'm not going to sit there and just take their word for it, because there's one thing missing from that whole thing. What did PlayStation want? They didn't tell us. And so that's why I'm still here sitting around and still asking these questions. And this person is trying to use Marvel Tokon as some kind of a, carrot on the stick for, so-called Xbox users, not realizing that you guys have graduated to PC. It's just a matter of time before the dots connect. And so they said something about the Marvel license having been modified or having been, designed in a way that it accommodated the PC launch. So I asked them and said, have you seen this license? Is it the same license as Spider-Man? And then they said, maybe watch the mini documentary at the end of the last State of Play and show where they explain the details, as PlayStation approached Marvel, Disney, to get the license before telling Arc System Works to code it. So I said, all right, point me to the licensing rights and contractual expansions between Sony and Marvel for the Spider-Man game. I'd like to see it. Then they started insulting me. You know nothing. Blah, 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 blah. Spider-Man license is not the same for Marvel Tokon. I said, all right, prove it. Show me the license and the evidence of them paying more. Thank you. Then they said I should keep digging the hole. Mr. Ignorant. I'm sure Sony has amended the contract with Disney in 2015 just for fun and not to use Spider-Man in video games or 2019 for the same objective when it jumps to blah, 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 PC, blah. You see the way they do this stuff? And I'm thinking to myself, I got to be talking to an 18-year-old, bro. Like, this is not what a grown man would do. However, let me go ahead and tell you guys why I do this. This is one reason I do this. Now, I understand, yes, there's content that I get out of it. But you have to understand that this is designed to help educate a lot of people as to what's going on. And so I engage in these conversations already kind of knowing where they're going to go sometimes. But I really feel the need that we need to point out where I think some of these holes are in this whole conversation, right? Now, they went ahead and put up this whole thing trying to tell me what a legal and contractual agreement is. Great. I'm glad they told me. Then they put up this screenshot. I don't know where they got it from. But this screenshot actually highlights Marvel and Sony's contract about the cinematic rights for Spider-Man. It's very interesting that they always bring this thing up. Whenever you talk about licensing, they jump and start talking about, the modification of some contract for the cinematic side, not realizing that Sony actually has the rights for Spider-Man in the cinematic universe. So I replied and said, this is the contract for the Spider-Man cinematic IP which Sony holds the rights to. In fact, this same post claims that this agreement could have changed line 3 and is likely outdated. Then they started to tell me that I'm ignorant and blah, blah, blah. And then they said we should ask Grok. This was a mistake. Now, an a language learning module is likely to make errors, but we already know this, that the licensing agreement for Spider-Man is quite complex. In one sense, Sony was able to acquire the cinematic rights for that character to an extent. It has its limitations, I'm certain. And they've been able to publish, Spider-Man movies with it. In fact, there was a time Disney wanted to bring Spider-Man into the universe, and they were having discussions, and everybody walked away, and they came back and they made some movies happen. If you're a movie aficionado, you probably heard of that. Then they talked about this license as if to say the license was, whatever. So they went ahead and started telling Grok to explain to me how the initial Sony Disney contract was for movies and had to be amended so that Sony could use the IP for games, and later on another amendment to include not only PlayStation but PC, as the initial agreement didn't cover that usage. Do you know what Grok told this this dude? Sony's 1999 deal with Marvel was for film rights only. Game rights remain with Marvel, who licensed Spider-Man separately to Insomniac Sony in 2014 for the PS4 title. Amendments in 2015/2019 were for the films, e.g. MCU integration. No public evidence shows extra payments for the 2022 PC release. Sony handled the port internally. This is crazy. These people run out here talking like they have some internal knowledge of something. They point and beg AI to help them out. And they can't necessarily go ahead and pay attention to detail. One of the biggest challenges that I've noticed a lot of, folk who are maybe more PlayStation aficionado, or at least they lean more to prefer PlayStation in terms of the platform. One of the things that I've realized that is a challenge in terms of the way they look at this stuff is they don't necessarily consider a lot of detail while doing it. I think it's from a perspective where they get maybe super excited about what's going on, and then all of a sudden that starts to degrade into this really weird, chase down of something that doesn't necessarily exist. I know you all want to go ahead and own me or whatever it is. Sorry, but I don't need to argue with you. I just need to present the evidence from those who have already presented it right here and let you pretty much stumble your way across it. All this other stuff that you're doing is absolutely nonsense. It doesn't help you. It's so funny, man. It's weird that all of this is, it's so weird because now look at what he's doing. As I'm making this video, ladies and gentlemen, he is in real time, right? He is in real time trying to, tweak his parameters after making claims and putting his feet down on things that he didn't properly vet. Not saying he doesn't know, he just did not look at the fine print. This has always been the big contention that I've had because none of us know these agreements, know the contents, know what's going on. Even the Insomniac leak is as, I would say it's as fractured as you possibly can get it. If it wasn't that we had numbers, the interpretation to a lot of things that were laid out would have been hard to use. So they said, they went ahead and started telling Grok, they said, because unagreed usage of an IP without proper monetary compensation for that unauthorized usage isn't illegal in the slightest, right? And then they start saying this, and they're talking about license agreements, but here's the challenge. You don't know what's in the license agreement. That's the crazy thing. If anything, I could make even a strong case against whatever you want to try to even put out here and say that because you don't know it, the best that we can do is even go ahead and say, perhaps, maybe at some point in time, right? They already covered all their bases, as in possibly digital copies of the game sold, which would cover even any platform they choose to launch the game on. Sony's lawyers aren't idiots. This is so weird that anybody would think that they wouldn't cover their bases when they're paying right out their nose such exorbitant license fees. It will be absolutely short-sighted that they would just say, oh, when we go back and negotiate, we're going to pay more money. No. If they want to negotiate, they'll say, well, you gave us the rights for digital for these platforms as this. If we're going to other platforms, in fact, perhaps maybe even reduce the fee if possible, because we're going to be paying a 30% fee on those platforms. That's even a likelihood if you wanted to go with more speculation in that regard. But now to come out here and start trying to appeal to Grok, an AI language learning module, when you could have just Googled what's available, is absolutely weird. Glad that helped clarify. According to Grok, the Spider-Man licensing facts, film rights are Sony's, but games are separate Marvel license. No extra payments needed for the PC port. If you need sources or more details, just ask. Grok is over here with these guys' own parameters, having to school him because he can't even calm down for 5 minutes to even read the fine print. Dude, this is a lesson and an exercise in taking your time. I'm a scatterbrain by nature in some cases. There are some things that I am absolutely well organized in, but in many cases, I am at risk to miss very critical details. In fact, some of you have been watching my videos. I lean on you. That is exactly why I do so that I don't go make a nincompoop out of myself. And so I'm here trying to bring class into session to say people need to relax and calm down. I know you probably have something against, I don't know, me, but you shouldn't. You don't even know me. If you met me, you might just find out that you probably have a lot in common with me. Relax. Over some stupid corpo called Sony and some stupid corpo called Microsoft, some of you want to have a hernia. Chill. Let this thing not fly out of, hand because of your favorite inordinate box. If something were to happen right now, you wouldn't be jumping to try to save your PlayStation. You'd be trying to preserve yourself or other more important things than that stupid console. Chill. What in the world is going on? Why has society become so materialistic that we can't even necessarily realize, hey man, we're trying to have a conversation here that is going to benefit the customer. All of you want to shoot yourself in the foot because you have some fanboydom that you have to sit there and worry about. If it was about fanboydom and all that stuff, then why are we even bothering having a conversation where we have to go cite any data? All of you make claims. It was contractual agreements. It was blah, blah, blah. It was blah, blah, blah. And you have no idea what the contractual agreements even state. You don't even know yet. You make it sound like you absolutely know, calling someone else ignorant and doing all of this. What is wrong with these folk? I'm so shocked. If you really have a problem with someone, just say you got a problem with them. Don't sit here and start trying to hide behind an AI language learning module and throwing all kinds of insults out there. Like really, and if anybody were to ask you, what did I do to you? I didn't do anything to you. I literally opened up the book on PlayStation's business and their approach for 2 straight years. That's all I did. And this thing has unnerved so many people. They somehow have, it's so shocking what has happened in these last few months. How can anybody be so intellectually contradictory with so much comfort? It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. Relax. Can somebody come in here and talk to these folk and say, calm down? It's not that serious. It absolutely is not that serious. Put yourself in a really strange position. It's very weird. Man, I want to put my videos on Twitter. I want to put my, content on Twitter, but man, these guys are crazy, man. Yo, what the heck is Publisher Con? I don't know if you guys know. Sway is a longtime supporter of my work and content. He's the one that encouraged me to go on Twitter to kind of follow gaming news. And I'm the kind of person where if I know something that is the truth and I know I have evidence, there's a high likelihood you and I would dig down to the bottom of it, because there are 2 things in my mind. I want to know if I'm actually, on point, because I make videos and I tell people stuff. I don't want to tell you trash. So we're going to have to dig all the way down. Man, this Twitter brings that for you, but sometimes I got to look and say, yo, these arguments aren't personal. These arguments are straight up designed for us to be able to see what the reality is. And people come out here and try to make claims and nobody even calls or says, okay, if you make a claim like, okay, they changed the licensing or whatever it is, they have to pay more, they have to amend the licensing. Where did you get it from? Did you see the license? Can you show me? That way I can know. Because if I can know, I was over here sharing all the, talking points of Sony within their internal, unfortunate Insomniac leaks, because that's what we had. The leaks were, in a sense, mentioned across different outlets in, the gaming journalism space. And so we went ahead and I talked about it because it unveiled PlayStation's business and their position in the market. Why anybody would come and try to make up stuff is just so strange to me, because contractual law, what the heck do you even know about contractual law? Lionel Messi was signed on a freaking napkin. You're going to tell me about contractual law? I'm not an expert in it, but I've seen some crazy, right? Like, look at this. Some of you follow soccer, right? Here it is in the images. It was literally done on a napkin. Let me go ahead and show you guys here. This is it right here. There are images of it on Google. This is it. Lionel Messi's napkin contract sells at auction for nearly $1 million. The freaking thing was signed on a napkin. Now that's contractual law for you. But the only reason we know is because it's been made available to us. They knew that this kid was special, so they signed right there. You don't even know what these contracts are about, and you want to talk about them, of which we can't even go with this contract anymore because it's already outdated. The gentleman has signed multiple, renewals of his license. He played all his life in Barcelona and then moved to PSG for 1 year, then eventually went to the MLS. So we can't even tell you anything about a lot of his contracts. Now we know some things based on announcements, how much it may have been retained for, maybe anything that, would probably have been made available publicly. But a lot of the details would have more than likely been kept very, very confidential. To come out here on Twitter and start talking about license agreements is a very strange thing, especially a specific one as such. Let's all eat our humble pie and relax. This thing's not that serious. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.